The astropane in Elara's chamber was more than just a window. It was a living canvas painted with the silent, swirling majesty of the cosmos. Tonight, as always, Elara pressed her nose against its cool, resilient surface, her breath fogging a tiny circle before the pane's self-cleaning microfibers cleared it away. Beyond, the inky black stretched infinite, stitched with a million distant suns, some mere pinpricks, others blazing nebulae of impossible color. Her home, Lunar Nova, a gleaming biome city nestled in a crater on the moon, was a beacon of human ingenuity. But it was the universe outside that truly held Elara's heart. She was 8 cycles old, and every night before activating her dreamweave for a night of guided learning and restorative sleep, Elara performed her own quiet ritual. She'd watch the stars. Not just the static distant stars, but the slow, elegant dance of the orbital traffic, supply freighters docking at the main port, research probes whispering past, their navigation lights blinking like curious fireflies. Tonight, a long-haul vessel, its massive solar sails unfurled like ethereal wings, was making its stately approach, reflecting the light of a faraway sun, in a dazzling, silent display. Her chamber was designed for comfort and wonder. Soft, bioluminescent moss panels lined the walls, providing a gentle, oxygen-rich glow. Her bed, a zero-gravity hammock, cradled her perfectly, adjusting to every shift in her small frame. But the true heart of her room, and indeed, of Lunar Nova itself, lay in the small crystalline obelisk that rested on her bedside table. It was no bigger than her hand, faceted like a perfectly cut gem, and within its depths pulsed a soft internal light, a faint, comforting violet hue. This was a personal shard of Stardust L-Wall. Elara reached out a finger, tracing the smooth, cool surface of the crystal. It hummed, a vibration so subtle it was almost imperceptible, a song meant for the deepest parts of her mind. The Stardust L wasn't just a decoration. It was the silent architect of her dreams, the gentle conductor of the Dreamweave network that connected every sleeping mind in Lunar Nova, guiding them through pathways of learning and rest. It was, in a very real sense, the colony's lullaby. Its light pulsed with a rhythm that mirrored her own steady heartbeat, a comforting counterpoint to the vast silent universe outside her pain. But tonight, something felt different. The violet glow of her Stardust L shard seemed softer. Pala doit doi. Elara tilted her head, trying to discern if it was just a trick of her eyes, perhaps a slight adjustment in the chamber's ambient lighting. No, Del. She knew the crystal's light intimately, its usual vibrant thrum. This was a muted, almost melancholic whisper. A prickle of worry, tiny and sharp, formed in her chest. She'd heard the adults talking, their voices hushed, their faces etched with lines of concern. Her mother, Dr. Aris especially. Dr. Aris was a Stardust L researcher, one of Lunar Nova's foremost luminologists. Elara knew, in the way children intuitively grasp unspoken anxieties, that the Stardust L was important. Critically important. She remembered her mother explaining it once, during one of their stargazing sessions by the astropane. Stardust L, my little moonbeam, Dr. Aris had said, her voice soft but serious, isn't just a crystal. It's ancient, a relic from the very beginning of the universe, found only in the deepest, most untouched nebulae. It resonates with pure cosmic energy, is what allows us to breathe here, to grow food, to power our domes, and yes, to dream together. The Stardust L was the lifeblood of Lunar Nova. Its unique resonance allowed for the intricate atmospheric processes to function, maintaining the breathable air within the domes. It fueled the nutrient synthesizers that grew their food in the hydroponic farms. Most importantly, it powered the colony's Dreamweave network, a vast interconnected neural interface that not only ensured perfectly restorative sleep for every colonist but also facilitated passive learning, memory consolidation, and even shared, therapeutic dreamscapes. Without it, Lunar Nova wouldn't just lose its dreams, it would lose its very ability to sustain life. And the Stardust L was fading. The Great Dimming, as the colonists had begun to call it, had started subtly. But over the past few cycles, it had become undeniable. The main luminar resonance chamber, deep beneath the central dome, where the colony's primary Stardust L reserves were stored, was visibly duller. The soft, pervasive violet glow that permeated Lunar Nova's public spaces had receded, replaced by a cooler, more utilitarian white light from backup energy sources. The Dreamweave, Elara knew, was already showing glitches, minor disturbances in sleep patterns, fleeting gaps in shared dreamscapes. Elara pressed her cheek against the cool crystal now, closing her eyes. She tried to feel its usual vibrant song, to lose herself in its gentle hum. But it was faint, a tired whisper. It felt sad, empty. A profound longing filled her, a child's simple, potent desire to make things right, to bring back the light. If only she could help. If only she knew how. She often felt a special connection to the crystals. She could almost feel their minute vibrations, their subtle shifts in energy, more keenly than others. A peculiar sensitivity, her mother called it, a gift. Just then, the soft chime of her chamber door announced her mother's arrival. Dr. Aris stepped in, her lab coat shimmering faintly in the moss light. She looked tired, the lines around her eyes deeper tonight, but a warm smile touched her lips as she saw Elara by the astropane. Still admiring the stars, little moonbeam? Dr. Aris' voice was a comforting balm, even with the weariness woven into its tone. She sat on the edge of Elara's hammock, her presence a solid, grounding warmth. Elara turned, her expression serious. "Mama, my Stardust doll, it's dimmer tonight, even dimmer than yesterday." She held up the crystal, its pale glow flickering faintly in her small hand. Dr. Aris sighed, a soft, almost imperceptible sound, and gently took the crystal. She held it to her own cheek for a moment, her thumb stroking its cool surface. "You're right, sweetie, it is." Her voice was quiet, laden with unspoken burdens. "The great dimming affects all the crystals. The resonance field is weakening across the entire colony." "Why, Mama? Why is it fading?" Elara's voice was a small, anxious whisper. Dr. Aris tucked a stray strand of hair behind Elara's ear. "That's what we're trying to understand, my love. The Stardust isn't like other energy sources. It doesn't deplete in the traditional sense. It's more like its connection to its source is weakening. Imagine a very, very long thread of light stretching across the cosmos, and our crystals are little knots on that thread. For some reason, the thread itself is fraying. Can't you fix it? Can't you find more?" A flicker of pain, quickly masked, crossed Dr. Aris' face. "We've tried, Elara. We've sent probes, even piloted expeditions, deep into the sectors where the last great Stardust L deposits were found, but nothing. It's as if the universe has grown stingier with its ancient light." She paused, her gaze drifting to the astropane, lost in thought. "Our current reserves in the luminar resonance chamber are critically low. If we don't find a new source, or a way to re-energize what we have, Lunar Nova." She didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Elara knew. Without the Stardust L, Lunar Nova would eventually fail. The domes would lose their integrity, the air would become unbreathable, the farms would wither, and the Dreamweave, the very fabric of their shared consciousness, would unravel. It was a slow, terrifying countdown. "But what about the legends?" Elara asked, remembering hushed stories shared amongst the older children, tales whispered by engineers. "The Source Star, the place where all Stardust L comes from?" Dr. Aris smiled, a genuine, if weary, smile. "Ah, the Source Star. A beautiful myth, a comforting bedtime story for generations of spacefarers. It's said to be a star, unlike any other, a celestial body composed entirely of pure Stardust L, radiating its unique energy across the cosmos. A sort of cosmic wellspring. We have theoretical models, ancient charts found in debris fields of long-lost." "But if it's real," Elara insisted, her eyes wide, "then if we could find it, Lunar Nova would be safe." "If it's real, yes," Dr. Aris agreed, stroking Elara's hair. "And my team? We're trying something new, something desperate, a long shot. We're working on a new kind of tuning fork, a hypersensitive resonance emitter that might just be able to pick up even the faintest whisper of the source star's unique frequency, It's theoretical, highly unstable, and requires an incredible amount of our remaining Stardust L to power its initial calibration. But it's all we have left. Elara's gaze returned to her own dimming crystal. Mama, can I help? I feel like I can almost hear it. Its song, it's just very quiet. Dr. Aris chuckled softly, a sound that held both affection and a touch of melancholy. You're a wonderful child, Elara, and you have a beautiful imagination. But this is for the scientists, for the engineers. You just focus on your dreams, okay? She kissed Elara's forehead, the familiar scent of ozone and bioluminescent moss clinging to her lab coat. Now, activate your dream weave. You have a fascinating lesson on exoplanetary ecosystems tomorrow. With another gentle squeeze, Dr. Aris left, the door sealing with a soft hiss. Elara lay back in her hammock, the zero-gravity cradle adjusting to her weight. She picked up her Stardust L shard again, holding it close to her chest. She knew her mother was trying to protect her, to keep her focused on being a child. But the worry persisted, a small persistent knot in her stomach. She pressed the Dreamweave activator button near her temple. A faint, internal shimmer spread behind her eyes, the familiar sensation of the neural interface linking. Usually, the Stardust L crystal would brighten, its violet glow intensifying as it connected to the network, ready to guide her into sleep. Tonight, however, it remained muted. Elara closed her eyes, trying to clear her mind, to surrender to the Dreamweave. But her thoughts were a swirling vortex of fading light, dwindling reserves, and the mythical source star. She pictured that long fraying thread of light her mother had described, stretching across the cosmos. Was there really a star at its end, burning bright with infinite stardust? She focused on the crystal in her hand, trying to feel its subtle hum, to conjure its usual calming presence. And then, she felt it. A flicker. Not just a dimming, but a distinct rhythmic pulse, almost like a code. It was incredibly faint, barely there, but it was different from the usual steady glow. It was a high patterning. Flash, pause, flash, pause. It was so subtle, she almost dismissed it as her imagination, an artifact of her own worried heartbeat. But as she watched, the pattern repeated. And then, something else happened. The Dreamweave, which should have been gently lulling her to sleep, suddenly felt different. It wasn't the familiar, soft current of guided sleep. It was a jolt, a sudden, vivid burst of sensation. Elara gasped, her eyes flying open. She wasn't in her chamber anymore. She was floating. Floating in an impossibly vast, silent expanse, suspended amidst a sea of cosmic dust. But this wasn't just any dust. It was luminous, sparkling with tiny, soft motes of violet light, a nebula of pure, unadulterated stardust. It pulsed. Around her, the motes swirled in slow, majestic currents, like an ocean of liquid light. And then one mote, brighter than all the others, began to pull at her. It wasn't a forceful tug, but a gentle, irresistible invitation. It pulsed with the exact same rhythm she had just observed in her personal crystal. Flash, pause, flash, pause. It grew larger, closer, its violet light deepening, almost throbbing with a silent song. Elara felt no fear, only an overwhelming sense of wonder and belonging. This was the source. This was the song the crystals were meant to sing. The mote was drawing her in, not to consume her, but to reveal something. And then, just as she felt she was about to touch its vibrant heart, she was yanked back, a sudden jarring pull. Elara shot upright in her hammock, her heart hammering against her ribs, her breath ragged. Her chamber was exactly as she had left it. The astropane displayed the same distant stars, the same silent, infinite black. Her Dreamweave felt normal again, gently receding, as if nothing had happened. But her Stardust L crystal, it was pulsing. Not with a faint, tired glow, but with a clear, deliberate rhythm. The same rhythm. Flash, pause, flash, pause. It was brighter now, too, a vibrant violet, almost as if it had momentarily re-energized itself, responding to something. Responding to her. Elara stared at it, her mind reeling. It hadn't been a dream. not a normal dreamweave sequence. It had been a message. A beacon. Her crystal wasn't just fading, it was trying to communicate, trying to show her something. The source star. The legend. The endless sea of Stardust. She had seen it. She had felt its call. A surge of exhilarating certainty, a powerful, unwavering resolve, filled Elara. Her mother had said it was a myth, a bedtime story. But Elara knew now. It was real. And her crystal, her special sensitive crystal, was trying to tell her where it was. She slipped out of her hammock, her feet barely touching the soft glow floor. She had to tell her mother. Or no, perhaps she had to follow the light herself. The crystal pulsed again, a silent, urgent plea. It was calling her. And Elara, little Elara of Lunar Nova, was ready to answer. She slipped out of her hammock, her feet barely touching the soft glow floor. She had to tell her mother. Or no, perhaps she had to follow the light herself. The crystal pulsed again, a silent, urgent plea. It was calling her. And Elara, little Elara of Lunar Nova, was ready to answer. Her heart thrummed a rhythm as swift as the crystal's light. The glow, usually a soft, internal hum, now pulsed with an insistent vibrancy, casting shifting lavender shadows on the floor around her. It wasn't a mere light. It felt like a whisper against her skin, a gentle pull in the very air. She knew her mother, Dr. Aris Thorne, was deep in her sleep cycle, her breathing even and slow, in the adjacent sleep pod. Waking her would mean questions, explanations, and likely a firm back to bed, sweetie. This quest, Elara knew with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, was hers alone. She tiptoed past the silent, sleek autochef, its indicator light a placid blue, and through the transparent privacy curtain that separated their family unit from the communal corridor. Lunar Nova at night was a different world. The bustling arteries of the day, filled with the cheerful chatter of children and the focused hum of adults, were now hushed. The corridor lights, usually a bright, energizing white, had dimmed to a gentle navigational twilight. Automated cleaning drones, silent as ghosts, glided along the polished floors, their optical sensors sweeping for stray dust motes. Elara clutched the crystal in both hands, its warmth a comfort against the cool night air. It pulsed more intensely now, pointing not just a direction, but a feeling. A deep, magnetic pull. She followed the subtle shift in its light, turning left past the hydroponics viewing window, where nutrient-fed vines glowed with an otherworldly green, then right into a less frequented maintenance passage. Here, the air was cooler, carrying a faint scent of recycled oxygen and ozone. The passage led to a series of interlocking service hatches, usually secured. But as Elara approached the first, the crystal flared, and with a soft hiss, the hatch slid open, revealing a narrow, darker tunnel beyond. Elara gasped, a silent, delighted sound. It was as if the crystal knew the way, or perhaps it was in making the way. She slipped through, the hatch sealing silently behind her, leaving her in a world of dim service lights and exposed conduits. Her journey continued, guided by the unwavering beacon in her hands. The crystal led her deeper into the underbelly of Lunar Nova, past humming power conduits, through ventilation shafts that echoed with the gentle sigh of circulating air, and across storage bays filled with dormant cargo bots. Each time she encountered a locked door, or a sealed access panel, the crystal would pulse, its light intensifying, and with a soft click or a gentle whir, the obstacle would yield. It was as if the very architecture of Lunar Nova recognized its call, its ancient, resonant frequency. Fear was a tiny tremor beneath her resolve, but wonder was a rushing river, carrying her forward. She passed through zones she'd only glimpsed in data logs, or heard whispered about by older children, the complex network of atmospheric processors, the vast subterranean water recycling plants, and even a section of the emergency tunnels designed for swift evacuation. The sheer scale of Lunar Nova, a city carved into the moon itself, unfolded before her. Eventually, the crystal's pull became less about navigating the engineered pathways and more about why direction. It pointed upwards, towards the surface. Elara found herself in a deserted cargo bay, its massive blast doors leading directly to the lunar surface. These doors were usually under strict, automated control, requiring multiple biometric authentications. But as she stood before them, the crystal burning like a miniature sun in her grasp, the heavy steel groaned. A hairline crack of starlight appeared, widening slowly as the doors began their ponderous, deliberate slide. A rush of cold, vacuum-filtered air swept past her as the outer door opened, revealing the stark, breathtaking panorama of the lunar surface. The earth hung like a luminous blue marble in the velvet blackness, a distant, beautiful jewel. The lunar landscape stretched out, a silent ocean of craters and dust, bathed in the ethereal glow of the distant sun. It was more magnificent than any Holovid simulation. Elara paused, momentarily overwhelmed. She was outside. Truly outside. A tiny figure standing at the precipice of an alien world. The heavy, insulated suit she'd instinctively donned from an emergency locker felt bulky, but reassuring. Her helmet automatically sealed, and the familiar whir of its internal atmosphere regulator began. Her breath fogged the visor slightly, then cleared. The crystal now pulsed with an almost frantic energy, pulling her directly towards the desolate plains beyond the colony's immediate perimeter. It was leading her away from the protective domes, away from the familiar hum of life, into the vast, silent unknown. She took her first step onto the moondust, her boots sinking slightly, leaving clear imprints. The low gravity made her feel light, almost buoyant. Each step was a graceful, exaggerated bound. She looked back once, at the shimmering artificial glow of lunar nova, a beacon of humanity against the cosmic void. Then, with a deep breath that tasted of filtered air and ozone, she turned and followed the crystal's unwavering call. The journey across the lunar surface was a dreamlike ballet of slow-motion leaps and silent strides. The crystal held aloft was her compass, her guide, a pulsing heart against the vast, silent expanse. It wasn't just pointing, it was leading, pulling her with an invisible thread across the desolate, beautiful landscape. The dust, fine as powder, billowed around her boots with each leap, settling slowly in the low gravity. Craters, some small and bowl-like, others vast and ancient, became landmarks in her silent trek. The earth, suspended high above, slowly shifted its position, casting long, distorted shadows that danced with her as she moved. She saw stars, countless and impossibly bright, unmarred by any atmosphere. It was a universe laid bare, overwhelming in its grandeur, yet she felt a peculiar sense of belonging, a connection woven by the crystal's light. She passed the automated mining outposts, their skeletal structures silhouetted against the distant sun, their robotic drills silent for the night cycle. The crystal didn't falter, didn't lead her towards any known human structure. It pulled her further, deeper, towards a region marked on colony maps as the Whispering Plains, an area mostly unexplored, deemed geologically stable, but of little immediate resource value. As she ventured further, the landscape began to subtly change. The dust seemed to shimmer with a faint iridescent quality. The craters took on stranger, more angular shapes, as if sculpted by an unseen hand rather than impact. The crystal's light intensified, its warmth now perceptible even through her suit gloves. It vibrated in her hands, a low, urgent hum that resonated deep within her chest. Then she saw it. A faint, almost imperceptible haze on the horizon, like a distant aurora borealis, but rooted to the moon's surface. It wasn't a structure she recognized from any schematics or images. It was a soft, glowing mist, radiating a spectrum of colors, lavender, soft gold, ethereal blue, that seemed to coalesce and disperse like living breath. Her heart pounded, a drum against the silence of her helmet. The myth. Could this be it? As she drew closer, the haze resolved itself into a colossal, crystalline formation unlike anything she had ever seen. It wasn't uniform, like the artificial crystals used in lunar nova's power grids or data storage. This was organic, fluid, as if grown from the very moon rock. Towering spires of luminous, translucent material rose from the lunar surface, reaching towards the stars like giant, silent hands. Vines of pure light pulsed within them, connecting them in an intricate, living network. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly alien. The ground beneath her feet began to vibrate gently. The air in her suit, though recycled, seemed to thicken with an indescribable energy. The crystal in her hands was now a blinding beacon, its light merging with the aurora emanating from the colossal structure. It felt like coming home, yet also like stepping into a dream. She stood at the edge of a vast chasm, a canyon carved not by water or tectonic plates, but by some immense ancient force. And from the depths of this chasm, the crystalline spires erupted, forming a glowing forest of light. The whispering plains indeed. She could almost hear a hum, a low resonant frequency that vibrated through her bones, a song sung by the moon itself. At the very heart of this crystalline forest, nestled within the largest, most magnificent spire, was a pool of liquid light. It shimmered with an impossible iridescence, reflecting the entire galaxy above, yet holding its own internal luminescence. The crystal in Elara's hand tugged, relentlessly, towards that pool. She had to get closer. The low gravity was a blessing, allowing her to navigate the treacherous crystal-strewn terrain with relative ease. The ground was no longer dust but a mosaic of shattered crystal shards, reflecting the light in a dizzying display. The air around the spires hummed with static electricity, making the fine dust dance and cling to her suit. As she drew nearer to the central pool, the scale of the structure became even more staggering. Some spires were thin as needles, others broad as ancient earth trees, yet all pulsed with that internal light, a network of energy flowing through them. She noticed something else, intricate patterns etched into the surface of some of the larger crystals, symbols that looked almost like writing, yet were fluid, organic, unlike any human script. They seemed to shift and reform as she watched, like living fractals. Finally, she stood at the edge of the pool of light. It was not liquid in the traditional sense, but a fluid, luminous energy, swirling with colors that shifted from deep indigo to fiery orange, then to soft, pearlescent white. It emanated a profound warmth, a gentle hum that resonated directly with the crystal in her hands. Slowly, carefully, Elara knelt, the crystal now almost vibrating out of her grasp. She extended her hand, holding the crystal just above the swirling light. The moment it touched the surface, a surge of pure, unadulterated energy coursed through her. It wasn't painful, but exhilarating, like every cell in her body was singing. The crystal in her hand flared, blindingly bright, then dissolved into a shower of soft lavender motes that drifted into the luminous pool. And as her crystal became one with the pool itself pulsed, rising gently, forming a perfect sphere of swirling light. Within its depths, images began to form. Not flat, static pictures, but dynamic, living holograms. She saw visions, a swirling nebula giving birth to stars, planets forming in fiery cosmic dances, the first single-celled life emerging from primordial oceans. She saw the vast, silent reaches of space, dotted with countless galaxies. Then the images focused. She saw a civilization unlike any human endeavor, beings of pure energy, of light, tending to celestial gardens, guiding the nascent evolution of worlds. They were not building, but nurturing. They were not conquering, but connecting. And then, a familiar blue sphere. Earth. She saw the first stirrings of life, the slow evolution, the rise of humanity. But it wasn't a detached observation. It was a perspective filled with a profound, gentle love, a protective watchfulness. She realized what this place was. It wasn't just a power source, or an alien ruin. It was a repository of cosmic memory, a living archive of the universe, and a point of connection to something ancient and benevolent. Her little crystal, her sensitive, special crystal, was a key. A fragment of this cosmic library, waiting to be reunited. The images in the sphere of light shifted again, showing her mother, younger, vibrant, working on a complex energy lattice. And then, her own birth, seen from an impossibly tender, loving perspective. The sphere showed her the stories her mother told her, not as mere bedtime tales, but as echoes of truth. The star weavers, the beings of light, the cosmic heart, this very pool of light. Her mother had known, or at least suspected. The sphere then showed a future, a branching path of possibilities, some dark, some bright. A looming threat, a ripple of discord spreading through the galaxy, a fading of the light. And a solution, a faint hope, tied to connection, to empathy, to understanding. Elara felt a deep sense of peace, but also a growing understanding of the responsibility that had just settled upon her small shoulders. Her crystal was gone, yet she felt more connected to it than ever, its essence now flowing through her, connecting her to this cosmic heart. The sphere of light began to gently descend, sinking back into the pool, its images fading, leaving only the swirling iridescence. The crystalline spires around her still hummed, still pulsed, but with a softer, more contented glow. The intense energy that had filled the air subsided, replaced by a profound stillness. Elara stood, feeling different. Changed. The universe felt less vast, less lonely. She was not just Elara of Lunar Nova, a child dreaming under a simulated sky. She was Elara, connected to the ancient whispers of the cosmos, a tiny spark now ignited by an incredible truth. What did it all mean? What was the threat? What was her role in the solution? The questions swirled in her mind, a new constellation of mysteries. The journey had brought her to the heart of a myth, but it had also opened the door to an even greater adventure. The moon, once just a rock with a colony, now felt like a living, breathing entity, connected to a vast, intelligent universe. And she, Elara, was now a part of that connection. Her breath fogged her visor as she looked up at the distant, familiar Earth, no longer just a home, but a part of the grand tapestry she had just glimpsed. The sun would be rising soon, painting the lunar landscape in hues of gold and rose. She had to return, but she knew with an unwavering certainty that she would be back. The whispers of the cosmic heart would call to her again. And next time, she wouldn't be alone. Her breath fogged her visor as she looked up at the distant, familiar Earth, no longer just a home, but a part of the grand tapestry she had just glimpsed. The sun would be rising soon, painting the lunar landscape in hues of gold and rose. She had to return, but she knew, with an unwavering certainty, that she would be back. The whispers of the cosmic heart would call to her again. And next time she wouldn't be alone. The drive back to Artemis Prime, her lunar rover's tracks carving fresh paths in the regolith, felt like navigating a dream. The silent, stark beauty of the moon, usually a source of quiet awe, now hummed with a resonance she could almost physically feel. Every crater, every distant mountain range, seemed to pulse with the same ancient energy that had flowed into her, through her. She was no longer just an astronaut, a scientist. She was a conduit, a vessel for a truth too vast for a single mind to contain. Her internal chronometer chimed, a gentle reminder of the scheduled approach to the base's airlock. It was time to shed the weight of the suit, to re-enter the contained, familiar world of human endeavor. But how could she shed what she had become? How could she speak of the infinite when her vocabulary was so finite? The very air in her suit felt thin, inadequate to contain the burgeoning wonder within her chest. The automated systems of Artemis Prime welcomed her back with a soft hiss of depressurization and the warm glow of internal lights. Dr. Aris Thorne, the mission's lead astrophysicist, was waiting by the inner airlock, a clipboard clutched in his hand. His precise, intelligent eyes, usually filled with a calculating curiosity, now held a hint of concern. "Elara," he began, his voice calm but with an underlying tension. "Your vital signs spiked during the last phase of your EVA, and the energy readings from the anomaly, they were unprecedented. Are you all right?" Elara nodded, pulling off her helmet. The recycled air of the base, sterile and familiar, filled her lungs. "I'm fine, Aris. Better than fine, actually. I made a connection, a profound one." She chose her words carefully, deliberately vague. The full truth felt too fragile to share, too easily dismissed as hallucination or stress-induced psychosis. The structure, it's not just a structure. Aris's brow furrowed, a flicker of scientific skepticism warring with the undeniable data. "Sentient? Elara, we've never detected anything like that. The energy signatures were incredibly powerful, yes, a complex array of graviton pulses, some kind of subspace resonance, but sentience is a huge leap. He gestured towards the medical bay. Let's get you scanned. You've been out there a long time. The next few days blurred into a cycle of medical examinations, psychological evaluations, and endless debriefings. Elara answered every question with a measured calm, presenting the facts, omitting the ineffable. She described the unique resonance, the feeling of information flowing, the sense of interconnectedness. She spoke of the structure's ancient intelligence, its vast scale. But she couldn't articulate the feeling of the cosmic heart, the whispers that had echoed in her soul. The medical reports were immaculate. Her vitals were perfect, brain scans showed no anomalies, no signs of stress or fatigue. Psych evaluations noted an unusual serenity, a profound inner calm, which the lead psychologist, Dr. Chen, attributed to a peak experience in an extreme environment. Ayus and his team pored over the data from the anomaly, the inexplicable graviton spikes, the complex energy patterns that defied known physics, the faint, almost imperceptible subspace ripples. They were fascinated, intrigued, but ultimately baffled. The scientific consensus leaned towards an extremely advanced, self-sustaining energy conduit, a relic of an ancient civilization. The sentience was deemed a subjective interpretation, understandable given the isolation and awe of the discovery. Elara played along, but inside, the cosmic heart continued to hum. It was a silent symphony, a persistent knowing that resonated deeper than logic or empirical data. She watched her colleagues, their brilliant minds dissecting and categorizing, trying to fit the infinite into their finite frameworks. She knew they were missing something fundamental. She found herself gravitating towards Dr. Lena Petrova, the mission's xenolinguist. Lena was an outlier, a brilliant mind with a reputation for unconventional thinking, whose research focused on universal communication patterns and the theoretical syntax of non-human intelligences. Lena possessed an almost artistic sensitivity to data, seeing patterns where others saw noise. One evening, in the quiet hum of the Artemis Prime mess hall, Elara approached Lena as she was reviewing ancient glyphs projected onto her datapad. "Lena," Elara began, "I need your input on something, beyond the official reports." Lena looked up, her dark eyes keen. "Ah, Elara. I was wondering when you'd seek me out. Your energy signature data. It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's almost linguistic in its complexity. A symphony of frequencies, each one carrying a distinct informational payload." "Oh, symphony of instinct." She paused, her gaze piercing. "You felt it, didn't you? More than just data." Elara felt a wave of relief wash over her. Finally, someone who Im saw. "I did. I felt a connection, a communication without words. It wasn't just receiving information, Lena. It was a dialogue, a mutual recognition." She lowered her voice, leaning closer. "The universe, Lena, it's alive." Lena's expression shifted from professional curiosity to profound awe. "Spoke to you," she repeated, almost a whisper. "The cosmic heart, you called it that in your dream logs, didn't you? I saw them, before they were flagged as subjective interpretation." She smiled, a rare, genuine smile that lit up her face. "I believe you, Elara. My theories always posited that true universal communication wouldn't be auditory or visual, but a fundamental exchange of information at a quantum level, a shared consciousness." A new hope ignited within Elara. "And next time," she said, quoting the whisper from her own mind, "I wouldn't be alone." Over the next weeks, Elara and Lena began to work in secret, cloaked by their official duties. Elara, leveraging her standing as a decorated astronaut and the undeniable intrigue of the energy anomaly, began to draft a proposal for a new, more extensive expedition to the alien structure. Her official justification was to deploy more sophisticated sensors, to attempt to harness or understand the energy for Earth's burgeoning power needs. The unofficial, true purpose was to establish a deeper connection, to bring more minds into the fold of the cosmic heart. She knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed a crew, not just capable, but open. People who, even if they didn't fully believe her fantastic claims, possessed the intuition and courage to step into the unknown. First, of course, was Lena. Her linguistic expertise and open mind would be invaluable. Then, Elara sought out Dr. Jian Li, the mission's lead xenobotanist and bioengineer. Jian was a quiet, contemplative man, whose life's work involved understanding interconnected biological systems, from microbial colonies in extreme environments to the complex symbiosis of entire planetary ecosystems. He saw life not as isolated entities, but as an intricate web. Elara believed he would intuitively grasp the concept of a living universe. Jian listened intently as Elara, with Lena's support, cautiously revealed more of her experience. He didn't interrupt, his dark eyes fixed on her. When she finished, he simply said, "A universal biome. A cosmic mycelial network, perhaps. It makes a terrible kind of sense. We always assume intelligence must be like ours, confined to a single organism. But what if it's the network itself?" His voice was soft, but his conviction was clear. "I am with you, Elara." Lastly, she needed a pilot, a mission specialist, someone who could keep them grounded while their minds soared. Commander Kalen Vance was the obvious choice. A veteran of several deep space missions, Kalen was a man of few words, known for his unflappable demeanor and his absolute dedication to his crew. He was pragmatic to a fault, but Elara knew he trusted her implicitly. When Elara approached Kalen, she didn't mince words. "Kalen, I need your help to go back to the anomaly. And this time it's not just about science, it's a contact." Kalen listened, his gaze steady. He didn't ask about visions or cosmic hearts. Instead, he asked practical questions. What are the risks? What additional equipment will we need? How do we ensure mission integrity while pursuing? His questions were a form of acceptance. He might not understand the metaphysics, but he understood loyalty and purpose. "If you say it's important, Elara, then it's important. Just tell me what to do." With her team assembled, Elara's proposal gained momentum. The promise of unprecedented energy potential from the anomaly was a powerful incentive for Earth's energy-hungry corporations and governments, eager to fund anything that might alleviate the planet's resource crunch. Bureaucracy, usually a glacial force, moved with surprising speed. A new deep space exploration vessel, the Stardust, was authorized and outfitted, designed for sustained lunar operations and advanced sensor deployment. The training for the new crew of the Stardust was rigorous, focusing on the specific parameters of the structure. Elara, with Jian's help, secretly began developing synaptic interface devices, disguised as advanced biofeedback monitors. These weren't designed to create a connection, but to potentially measure, amplify, and perhaps even synchronize the brainwave patterns of multiple users experiencing the anomaly's influence. Lena worked on refining algorithms to process the complex energy signatures, hoping to find a language within the chaos. Kalen, meanwhile, meticulously planned every aspect of their lunar transit and landing, ensuring flawless execution. The four of them formed a tightly knit unit, bound by a shared secret and a burgeoning, audacious hope. In the quiet hours, Elara shared more with them. The whispers, the profound sense of being part of something immense, the feeling of the cosmic heart. Lena's eyes would shine with understanding. Jian would nod thoughtfully, connecting it to his own theories of universal life, and Kalen, while remaining stoic, would listen with an unwavering focus that spoke volumes. They were preparing not just for an expedition, but for an awakening. Months passed in a blur of intense preparation. The Stardust launched from Earth, a sleek arrow of human ambition piercing the velvet black, carrying their hopes and fears across the vast expanse. The journey to the moon felt different this time. It wasn't just a scientific endeavor, it was a pilgrimage. As they approached the lunar orbit, the anomaly, a faint shimmer on the horizon, seemed to pull at Elara's consciousness. The whispers were back, stronger now, a chorus of silent invitations. "Initiating final descent profile," Kalen announced, his voice steady over the comms, a reassuring anchor in the storm of Elara's anticipation. Landing coordinates locked on to within 50 meters of the structure, minimal atmospheric interference. The Stardust touched down softly, its landing struts settling into the regolith with a gentle thud. The interior lights flickered for a moment, then stabilized. A profound silence descended, broken only by the hum of the life support systems. "We're here," Lena whispered, her face pressed against the viewport, her gaze fixed on the distant, shimmering pillars. "All right, team," Elara said, her voice filled with a quiet authority. "You know the protocols. Gear up, this is it." Donning their new, more advanced EVA suits, they prepared for the journey to the structure. The suits were lighter, more responsive, with enhanced sensory feedback systems designed to register subtle environmental shifts. Each suit was also equipped with the synaptic interface devices, discreetly integrated into their helmet systems, ready to activate. The lunar rover, a rugged six-wheeled marvel, carried them across the familiar, yet newly mysterious landscape. The journey was tense, filled with unspoken questions and profound anticipation. Elara watched her crew, their faces obscured by visors, but their intent clear in their posture. They were ready. As they approached the anomaly, its colossal scale became apparent, casting long geometric shadows across the lunar plane. The pillars pulsed faintly now, a soft, almost imperceptible glow emanating from their intricate surfaces. The air around them felt different. Thicker, somehow, with an almost tangible energy. "Energy readings are off the charts," Kalen reported, his voice tinged with awe. "Graviton field strength fluctuating wildly. Subspace resonance is like a choir. My linguistic algorithms are detecting complex pattern formations," Lena added, her voice breathless. "It's beautiful, like a cosmic poem." Jan remained silent, simply observing, his head tilted as if listening to an inaudible frequency. They parked the rover a safe distance away, and disembarked. The four astronauts walked towards the structure, their boots crunching softly on the regolith. The sheer presence of the anomaly was overwhelming. It towered above them, ancient and alien, a monument to a civilization beyond human comprehension, yet now, perhaps, within reach. "All right," Elara said, stopping before the base of one of the pillars. "You all know what to do. Activate your synaptic interfaces. We'll approach the surface together. Remember what I told you. Open your minds. Let the connection flow." One by one they reached out, their gloved hands touching the cool, smooth surface of the alien pillar. Elara felt the familiar current, the initial jolt of energy, but this time it wasn't just hers. She felt the subtle shift in Lena's suit, the tiny tremor in Jian's stance, the focused stillness of Kalen. Then, the world around them dissolved. It was no longer just Elara connecting. It was a symphony of minds, four distinct consciousnesses, merging with the cosmic heart. Lena was overwhelmed by a torrent of information, not as abstract data, but as pure, living language. She saw universal grammars unfolding, complex syntax woven from light and shadow, the very fabric of meaning unspooling before her. She understood, intuitively, the interconnectedness of all communication, from the simplest cellular signal to the grand cosmic narratives. It was a language of pure intent, of shared existence, and she found herself weeping, not from sadness, but from the sheer beauty of comprehension. Jian felt himself immersed in a vast, intricate web of life. He perceived galactic ecosystems breathing in unison, stars as the hearts of colossal organisms, nebulae as their vibrant circulatory systems. He witnessed the birth and death of cosmic biomes, the delicate balance of dark matter and energy as a fundamental metabolic process. He understood that intelligence wasn't just in neurons, but in the very dance of life and non-life, an elegant, self-organizing system spanning the entirety of existence. He saw the universe as a singular, magnificent organism, and felt a profound sense of belonging. Kalen, the pragmatist, was plunged into a realm of pure physics. He didn't just understand the fundamental forces, he felt them. Gravity as an embrace, electromagnetism as a song, the strong and weak nuclear forces as the heartbeat of reality. He saw the intricate dance of particles, the elegant mathematics of spacetime, not as equations, but as pure, vibrant motion. The universe was a machine, yes, but a living, breathing, exquisitely designed mechanism, and he, for a fleeting moment, was a part of its grand, cosmic engineering. And Elara. Her previous connection deepened, expanded. She felt the individual experiences of her crew, their unique perceptions filtering into her own, amplifying her understanding. The cosmic heart resonated with their collective consciousness, responding with a profound multi-sensory cascade. It was no longer just whispers, it was a chorus, a direct transmission of pure knowledge, pure being. They saw not a single message, but a tapestry of understanding. A vision of interconnected realities, of vast cosmic civilizations linked by this very network. They glimpsed a shared history, not of individual species, but of the universe itself, evolving, learning, growing. And within that tapestry, they perceived a subtle shift, a gathering storm, a challenge approaching the edges of their known reality. A need. The connection pulsed, fading slowly, leaving them adrift in the silence of the moon, yet irrevocably changed. They stood there for what felt like an eternity, their hands still pressed against the pillar, the echoes of the cosmic heart reverberating in their minds. When Elara finally withdrew her hand, the others followed suit. They looked at each other, their visors reflecting the faint glow of the distant earth, their faces unreadable, yet their eyes, visible through the transparent panels, held a shared understanding, a profound, almost fearful wonder. They had touched the face of the infinite, and the infinite had touched them back. The journey had just begun. The universe had whispered its secrets, and in doing so, had laid bare a path they now had no choice but to follow. They looked at each other, their visors reflecting the faint glow of the distant earth, their faces unreadable, yet their eyes, visible through the transparent panels, held a shared understanding, a profound, almost fearful wonder. They had touched the face of the infinite, and the infinite had touched them back. The journey had just begun. The universe had whispered its secrets, and in doing so, had laid bare a path they now had no choice but to follow. The whisper wasn't a sound, nor even a language they knew. It was a download, a complex tapestry of data woven directly into their minds, a feeling more than a fact. For Elara, the scientist, it manifested as intricate equations and shimmering, impossible geometries that defied Euclidean space. For Kale, the poet and philosopher, it was a symphonic swell of color and light, a narrative of cosmic genesis and endless possibility. Yet, the core message was identical, a trajectory, a resonance, a ye Koli. They floated there, tethered to the Stardust, their small exploration vessel, feeling the pulse of this new reality. Earth, once their anchor, now seemed a distant memory, a beautiful, fragile jewel they were about to leave behind, perhaps forever. You feel it too? Elara's voice, a tremor in the comms, cut through the vast silence. More than feel, Elara, Kale replied, his voice hushed with awe. I understand it. It's a song, a star song directing us. The song was a map, not of stars and nebulae, but of pathways through the fabric of existence itself. It showed them how to retune their ship, how to coax from its conventional systems capabilities they never knew it possessed. It was an intuitive leap, a knowledge gifted, not earned. They unlatched themselves from the hull, their movements now imbued with a new purpose. Back inside the Stardusters, the familiar consoles and screens seemed to hum with a latent energy, waiting for their touch. Kale took the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing over the controls with an unfamiliar grace, guided by the internal star song. Elara, at the navigation station, saw the impossible geometries of the whisper translate into real-time recalibrations. Systems aligning in ways that defied current astrophysics. The drive core, it's resonating with something external, Elara breathed, watching the energy readings spike beyond all safe parameters, yet the ship remained stable. A folded space signature. It's like the universe is folding around in us, not us through it. With a shared glance, a silent pact sealed in the depths of their souls, Kale initiated the sequence. There was no countdown, no dramatic lurch. Instead, the stars outside the viewport smeared into streaks of impossible color, then dissolved entirely into a swirling vortex of pure light. The Stardust didn't accelerate, It would remain the light, dissolving into the non-space the whisper had revealed. The journey was not through distance, but through perception. They emerged into a realm where conventional laws ceased to apply. It was a place of crystalline nebulae that pulsed with the rhythm of distant, unknown hearts, where gravity was a suggestion, and time itself flowed in shimmering, fractal currents. The Stardusting, guided by the internal star song, was no longer a vessel, but an extension of their wills, a bubble of familiar reality traversing the sublime. Weeks blurred into an eternity. Food and water were replenished by the ship's advanced replicators, but their true sustenance came from the ever-present wonder, the sheer, mind-bending beauty of their surroundings. Yet the isolation was a constant companion, a thin, cold veil that sometimes threatened to descend. Elara, ever the pragmatist, grappled with the lack of empirical data. Her instruments, while operational, registered only anomalous readings or undefined energy signatures. She yearned for verifiable facts, for the comfort of the known. Kale, however, thrived. He sketched the impossible landscapes onto his datapad, his fingers flying, translating the cosmic ballet into lines and colors, finding solace in the abstract. "It's beautiful, Kale," Elara whispered one cycle, watching a river of shimmering, sentient light flow past the viewport. "But what was it? What are we seeing?" Kale turned from his canvas, his eyes reflecting the alien glow. "Perhaps we're not meant to categorize it, Elara. Perhaps we're meant to experience it, to let it change us." And change them it did. Their senses sharpened. They began to perceive patterns in the cosmic noise, echoes of the star song that guided them. They learned to navigate not by instruments, but by a shared intuition, a resonance between their minds, and the ship, and the whisper itself. They saw the universe not as a collection of separate objects, but as a vast interconnected web, each strand singing its own unique note. Their first true encounter was not with an alien civilization, but with a phenomenon so profound, it redefined their understanding of life. They drifted into a region where space itself seemed to be made of living, breathing light. Giant structures, like celestial corals, pulsed with soft luminescence, reaching towards them. These were not inert formations, but vast, conscious entities, slow-moving and ancient, communicating through shimmering patterns of light and resonant frequencies. The whisper in their minds deepened, translating the intentions of these colossal beings. They were not hostile, nor even curious in a human sense. They were custodians, silent witnesses to the flow of time and matter, their existence a testament to the myriad forms life could take. From them, Elara and Kale learned of cycles of creation and destruction, of the universe's own consciousness, and of the profound interconnectedness of all things. It was a lesson in humility, a reminder that humanity was but one tiny note in an infinite symphony. As they journeyed further, the star song grew stronger, drawing them towards a singular point of light that pulsed at the heart of the non-space. It wasn't a star, nor a black hole, but a nexus, a confluence of all the shimmering pathways they had traversed. The Stardust trembled, unable to proceed much closer. "We have to go in," Kale stated, his voice calm, resolute. "Just like the whisper showed us." The whisper had indeed shown them. Their suits already advanced, had been subtly reprogrammed by the star song, their environmental systems now capable of interfacing directly with the unique energies of the Nexus. They would leave the Stardust, their home for so long, and enter the heart of the infinite. The farewell was brief. They checked their comms, their life support, then turned to each other. Elara's eyes, usually filled with questions, now held a quiet acceptance, a profound trust. Kale's, always alight with wonder, shimmered with a knowing certainty. "See you on the other side, Kale," Elara said, a faint smile touching her lips. "The other side of everything, Elara," he replied, his hand briefly touching her helmet. They exited the airlock, two tiny specks against the overwhelming brilliance of the Nexus. As they drifted closer, the light enveloped them, not as blinding glare, but as a gentle, all-encompassing embrace. Their suits hummed, translating the raw energy into a cascade of data, a torrent of understanding that bypassed their conscious minds and flowed directly into their souls. The Nexus was not a place, but a state of being. It was the collective consciousness of the universe, the grand tapestry woven from every star, every atom, every thought, every life, past, present and future, all existing simultaneously. All existing simultaneously. They saw the birth of galaxies, the quiet dance of dark matter, the first tentative stirrings of life on countless worlds, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the endless cycles of renewal. They were not just observing, they were part of it, their own consciousness expanding, merging with the cosmic whole. They understood the whisper now. It wasn't a message to them, but an echo waft them. It was the universe remembering itself through their awakened minds, an invitation to participate in its grand, unfolding awareness. They were nodes in this cosmic consciousness, conduits for wonder, instruments of understanding. In that moment, Elara's scientific mind found its ultimate equation. The universe was pure information, constantly creating, constantly learning, constantly debating. Kale's artistic soul found its ultimate masterpiece. A symphony of existence, infinitely complex, infinitely beautiful, without beginning or end. They were no longer Elara and Kale, individuals bound by time and space. They were fragments of the universal mind, experiencing itself, understanding itself. There was no fear, no loneliness, only profound peace and an ecstatic sense of belonging. The touch of the infinite had been a key, unlocking dormant potential within them, preparing them for this ultimate communion. But the journey wasn't meant to end in perpetual merging. The star song, now a gentle lullaby, guided them back, their consciousnesses subtly reforming, reintegrating into their human forms. They emerged from the nexus, changed, yet still themselves, carrying the universe within them. The return journey was a blur of seamless integration. The Stardustans seemed to anticipate their thoughts, guiding them effortlessly through the non-space, then back into the familiar, if now somewhat prosaic. They saw the Milky Way unfold before them, a spiral of glittering stars, and knew each one, not just as a celestial body, but as a living entity, part of the grand whole. They didn't return to Earth in triumph, with grand pronouncements and scientific data. How could they explain the ineffable? How could they describe a truth that transcended words and equations? They simply returned. The Stardustim re-entered Earth orbit, silent and unannounced. Elara and Kale emerged, not as the astronauts who had left, but as something more. Their eyes held a depth, a serenity that seemed to contain the cosmos. They spoke little of their journey, for words were inadequate. But the whisper was no longer just within them. It now emanated from them, a subtle, resonant frequency that permeated the atmosphere, a gentle vibration that touched the collective unconscious of humanity. It wasn't an overt message, but a seed of wonder, planted in the dreams of children, in the quiet moments of artists, in the sudden flashes of insight for scientists. People on Earth began to look at the stars with a new kind of awe, not just as distant points of light, but as potential homes, as parts of a greater story. Curiosity blossomed into a deeper yearning for understanding, a quiet recognition of an underlying unity. Humanity, subtly and slowly, began to remember its place in the cosmic tapestry, guided by the silent, profound resonance of the two who had touched the infinite. Elara and Kale lived out their days in quiet contemplation, their lives a testament to the boundless potential of the human spirit toy. They didn't lead revolutions or discover new technologies, but they were the first to truly know. And in knowing they became the bridge between humanity and the greater consciousness of the universe, the initial melody of a new star song for all. And as the children of Earth drifted off to sleep, their dreams were filled with shimmering nebulae, with ancient living light, and with the gentle whisper of a universe that was finally remembering itself through them. The journey had indeed just begun, not just for two brave souls, but for all of humanity, now subtly attuned to the infinite possibilities that lay beyond the stars, and within themselves.